Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Hitting the Hardwood Podcast, your home for all the latest Minnesota Lynx and WNBA news, analysis, and coverage. Thank you for tuning into another episode. I'm your host, Mitchell Hansen, and the Lynx just can't stop winning, which is a lot of fun to watch. It's crazy that we're already here at the end of June, basically. We have one full week of June as this podcast is being released. But the Lynx are 12-1, sitting top of the league, and they're doing it while they still haven't really been fully healthy. As I'm recording this podcast, Nafisa Collier had missed the Saturday game against the Los Angeles Sparks at Target Center with a lower back injury. And we'll see. It's yet to be seen how long she'll be out, but Minnesota still has been able to. They really haven't skipped a beat, which is impressive. And they are the best defensive team in the league over specifically the last 3 to 5 games, but they've been one of the top defensive teams in the league all season long, and that's been a big reason for their success. But right now, like I said, they're 12-1. They're entering a two game road trip here coming up this week before they have 5 home games at home, or five games at home. One being the Commissioner's Cup Championship on July 1st against the Indiana Fever. But it'll be a big stretch here for Minnesota to try and kind of create a little bit of space. And I think this is a good opportunity to do so. And we talked about that in the podcast recording that will start here in a little bit. But this will be a key stretch for Minnesota. They have a big homestand. I think one of their biggest, if not it looks like the longest homestand of or road trip of the regular season at the beginning of July. That includes Phoenix, LA, and then 2 games in Chicago. But a big stretch here coming up. Every game's a big game, but specifically the next maybe 2.5 week span, I think we'll learn a lot about the Lynx and where they'll be standing in the WNBA standings here as the season progresses, especially before we get into that All-Star break period, as well as the kind of the mini series with the New York Liberty here coming up in the end of July and early August. But with that said, this week I am joined by somebody you all know very, very well, my partner here at the Hitting the Hardwood Network, host of Lynx Happy Hour, guy who does a phenomenal job covering the Lynx for the Next, and is just an all-around good dude. That being my good friend Terry Horstman. Sits down with me to talk about the Lynx, talk about what we've seen from them so far, talking about exactly what I just mentioned, the kind of the 2 week stretch here coming up here from Minnesota, and what that could mean and what that all looks like. But we just kind of dive into things a little bit and talk about all things Lynx, and Terry talks about specifically the last couple games as well. And how Minnesota's been able to maneuver without Nafisa Collier. But before we get into that, I want to mention our Patreon page, patreon.com/hitting the hardwood. There's where you'll get exclusive news, information, early releases on different content, podcasts such as this one. And we make it worth it. If you can just contribute a few dollars a month, it helps with ensuring that Terry and I both can keep doing these podcasts and keep doing this coverage and keep providing you with this coverage and information. So if you go check that out, patreon.com/hitting the hardwood, we would really, really appreciate it. Sign up for our newsletter, go to our website. You can find the link on any of our social medias. Sign up for our newsletter. You'll get weekly emails to your inbox for free. Just go check all of that out. And it's been a fun season so far, and we're looking forward to continuing to provide that coverage to you guys throughout the year. But with that said, let's jump right into the podcast with my good friend Terry Horstman. A week after you had me on your podcast, I am having you on my podcast, Terry. Terry Horstman of The Next and Lynx Happy Hour. A guy who I've had the pleasure of working with here at Hitting the Hardwood and the Hitting Hardwood Network. Welcome. Thank you for joining.
For sure, Mitchell. Thanks for having me.
Well, how have things been? I know things have been a little busy for you recently. First of all, congratulations.
A little bit.
This is a couple weeks beyond, but so congratulations to you in the midst.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a busy spring. But yeah, the Lynx have the best record in the WNBA, so I've had a lot of fun stuff to cover there. And I somehow the most impossible thing ever was Terry getting married. So that happened. We had the best day of the year weather wise, and the whole thing went off without a hitch, and it was a really fun weekend. Took a quick little mini moon, I'll call it, right after we we'll do the real thing sometime next year. Hoping to go to Ireland, and definitely don't have time to do that in the middle of the WNBA season. But
yeah. Not only is your life busy, but also it's in the heart of the WNBA season. So
right,
that's busy enough in itself. So
for sure.
It's impressive. It's impressive.
And it's also now it is 1,000 degrees outside here in Minnesota. I imagine you an hour north of the cities. I feel like it gets that gets a little hot too. So
yeah,
we're bringing the heat on Hitting the Hardwood today.
Yes,
for sure.
Literally we are. I never thought that my house would feel so nice and so cold and so wonderful than when you walk outside and you can't even breathe. So that's
right. That's what we are dealing with right now. But
this is what we wanted a couple months ago. We didn't want the snow anymore. We wanted the 100-degree days, and now we have it. So
yep. And now we're complaining about it.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it works.
Well, speaking of the Lynx, obviously they've stayed hot. They hit that little I don't even know if you'd really call it a road bump, but kind of it's the only loss on the season or on the schedule,
Yeah.
so I guess road bump. But what have you seen from the Lynx as of late? They've won 3 straight now. They're heading into July, just about. Well, we have the last week of June here, and then we're heading into Commissioner's Cup in July. But what have you seen so far from the Lynx, and also doing it without one of their best players?
Yeah, I think
their best player. I
the
should
last
say one of their best players. Sorry,
right.
their best player.
They're their best player. The league's best player.
Yes.
MVP. Pretty big loss, but they've essentially had and Ken Youngblood asked Cheryl this last night after the Lynx beat the Sparks for the second consecutive Saturday. They've played now essentially 2.5 games this season without Fee and have been victorious in all of those. And like that comes with the caveat that game at Phoenix was without Kalia Copper and Alyssa Thomas for the Mercury. So, but you still got you can't control what the other team's injury report is. You can only control how you play on each particular night. And I think while it hasn't been perfect, last night's game against the Sparks certainly wasn't. The final score looks like the way you'd want the Lynx to pull it off against one of the team that we're not really expecting to push for the playoffs now in the LA Sparks. But they've won in a variety of ways, which has been nice. I think I wrote after the win against Las Vegas, which of course didn't include Asia Wilson, but still a handful of gold medalists and WNBA champions, and coach and Becky Hammond on that other sideline. So still a great challenge. And I wrote about Diamond Miller's game on that night and the struggles Diamond has gone through. Last night was an incredible game by Maria Klindikova. Yeah. And I thought also, and Diamond provided a spark in the game against the Sparks as well. I thought Peely was solid in a way we haven't always seen Peely being solid, where she got 1-3 off and then had another nice midi, and I don't think got too many other looks than that. But we know she can shoot when she heats up, but she was just solid on defense and rebounded in a way that I feel like that's kind of what we haven't always seen from her when she's gotten minutes. And last night's game was just like kind of a slog. They really struggled offensively. So it was a game where you didn't have your best offense. You didn't have Fee to go to. Like anytime like another team's making a run or you have a couple bad possessions in a row, it's like, all right, just get the ball into 24 and that'll stop the bleeding. And they didn't have that option and they found another way. And that's what you want to see out of championship teams. Not every game is going to be a masterclass. Not every game is going to be your MVP candidate hitting 30. And Kayla McBride went off last night, which was great to see, and they got it done. So I'm very interested to see how they play on this road trip. It's the first East Coast road trip of the year, and the only Eastern Conference team they've played was that game against Connecticut, which right now feels like a million years ago.
I know.
So I think Washington has done a great job. I think Sidney Johnson, if there weren't just so many other great coaching jobs happening right now, I think we'd be talking about Sidney Johnson more seriously as a candidate for Coach of the Year. Someone we are for sure talking about is Carl Smesko in Atlanta. So I think that Atlanta game will be interesting just to see how they deal with Atlanta's size. So I'm fascinated about this upcoming road trip. These last few games since that Seattle game, they've really bounced back and not allowed a ton of points in the paint. Again, Asia Wilson probably would have challenged that a little bit more. But the Sparks are a team that loves to live in the paint. And in both these home wins against LA, they've done a good job of limiting that. So I think they challenged themselves after the bump in the road in Seattle, and I think they've responded accordingly.
Do you want to get your business in front of a passionate and dedicated fan base? Do you want to support the ever-growing landscape of women's sports? Hitting the Hardwood Network is here for you. We offer partnerships and sponsorships at various levels, including advertising on the Hitting the Hardwood and Lynx Happy Hour podcast, the Hitting the Hardwood newsletter, Patreon page, website, social media, and much more. If you want to partner or sponsor Hitting the Hardwood, please reach out to us at hittingthehardwood@gmail.com, and let's chat about how we can work together to support the ever-growing landscape of women's sports and help the game grow. I want to give a shout out to our current partners here at Hitting the Hardwood and those who help make Hitting the Hardwood happen. Thank you to Pence Homes, Fantasy Sports Evo, Homage, and Better Edge for your continued partnership and your continued support of Hitting the Hardwood and Lynx Happy Hour and your willingness to help make the game grow.
I do think the kind of the impressive thing about the Lynx so far that I think will pay big dividends in the playoffs, especially, is they've been able to maneuver so many different lineups and adjust in so many different ways with injuries and just absences and all of that stuff. I mean, you talk about this team as a whole, they've really only been healthy for what, maybe 5 games, like fully, full roster. And I mean, you're without K-Mac for the first 4 games of the year. You're without Fee for 2.5 games. Like you're without, Alana Smith, or you're without Jess Shepard. And it's just impressive that it truly is next player up, and everybody contributes when one of those star players is out. And that's huge because you're going to get that in the playoffs where Fee will get shut down or K-Mac will get well, I shouldn't say shut down, but limited. You can't really shut those two down, but you just kind of limit them to some extent, and that'll happen. But somebody else needs to step up. We've seen Courtney Williams doing it, a million times basically. So it's impressive that they've been able to just kind of do that without skipping a beat, and it's very hard to do. And I think that's something that a lot of people kind of take for granted when it does happen like that, where everybody just steps up, but it's not that common where that happens. They could have easily folded in these last 2 games or maybe game and a half, and they didn't, and they stepped up when it mattered most, and that's what championship teams do. So it's been impressive. But you talked about the upcoming road trip. So you mentioned they have Washington and Seattle coming up this week as people are listening to this podcast.
Washington, Atlanta.
Or Atlanta, I'm sorry. Yes.
Right.
I'm for some reason stuck on Seattle. I did that over the weekend and I got called out for it
and in a feature story.
I got
WNBA insider admits blunder. I thought this was going to be the end of Mitchell as we do it. This is a deep cut. We don't need to get in the weeds on this. But
what did I do? But for people who are
Seattle's on your mind for some reason.
For people that are wondering what the heck we're talking about, I tweeted on, what would that be, Saturday morning. There was 2 games over the weekend, and there was a Phoenix-Chicago game, and I tweeted Phoenix-Seattle, and I sent a correction afterwards, and somebody wrote a story about me, like, basically ripping on Chicago.
Right. Someone wrote a story with the headline, W Insider admits blunder, and then the photo was Angel Reese and the rest of the sky.
What did I say?
And then I saw in like Mitchell Hansen of W Insider and Hitting the Hardwood, and I was like, whoa, Mitchell, what the F did you say? And you just mixed up Seattle and Chicago because of course. So maybe Phoenix will play Seattle in Chicago one day.
Hey, but yeah, see, I'm just kind of hinting,
just a little, just a little, like city roulette. Like, why are we? let's mess around with neutral sites. We
God.
can do anything in this era.
Yeah, but apparently my go-to team Seattle. Whenever I don't know, I just say Seattle for everything. But Washington, Atlanta is who
Washington,
they're playing,
Atlanta.
as you mentioned.
It'd be a wild road trip if it was to DC and
yes,
then to Seattle.
To Seattle, but it wouldn't surprise me in the W. But after that, then I mean, Minnesota will be at home for like what is it? Probably almost it's almost a
Over.
2 week stretch. Like it's about a
Yeah,
week and a half stretch. They have the end
and
of
they
June.
start.
They play Connecticut, then Washington, Golden State, Chicago, and then they still have that Commissioner's Cup game mixed in there too. In
Right.
June.
They start July with 4 home games
Yeah.
in 6 days, and I'm already tired just thinking about that.
Then
Then it's a significant 4-game road trip after that, and I'll be in. They have speaking of Chicago, they're at Chicago Saturday afternoon, July 12th, and then just staying in town to do it again on Monday, July 14th. I'll be in Chicago for both of those games.
Heck yeah.
Very excited
That's
about
awesome. Heck yeah. That'll be a nice, well, not nice, but a long road trip too with Phoenix, LA, Chicago. But at least they don't have to travel much from in that latter half of that stretch.
Yeah.
But when you're kind of looking at, let's say the first, 2 weeks of July, or even the next, let's say 10 games, it is like we just talked about. There's stretches there. They have 2 away games, 5 home games, and then 4 away games in a row. What are your thoughts on what could come with this stretch? I mean, it might be, it's relatively, I don't want to say easy, but you got Chicago
Right.
3 games within there, and you never really know what you're going to get with Golden State, Connecticut, the Atlanta Phoenix games. Those are going to be kind of key, I think, in kind of a good measuring stick. But what do you think on that whole
Sure.
stretch?
Oh yeah, over that stretch, I mean, Golden State is, kind of the darling of the league right now for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
I think mentioning coach of the year race earlier, I think Natalie Nakase is probably my pick right now, because everyone just expected the Valkyries to be fun and a nice story,
Right.
and a great crowd, and they are all of those things, but they're also winning games here and kind of in the thick of what will be a very fascinating playoff race, I think, later in the year. This is an opportunity. I like the Lynx are going to keep stacking wins, and I'm not predicting them to go undefeated in this stretch. And we saw last year, great, fun, iconic Commissioner's Cup final. It meant a lot to people. They played really well. And then their next game was that camp day game at Dallas, where they started fine and you could tell were gassed and didn't play very well. Cheryl called the team out. The team, kind of fessed up and said, like, there was an admission of not being ready to play, not because they weren't taking it seriously, but just you could tell we're gassed. Maybe enjoyed a little too much of that Commissioner's Cup championship champagne. Who among us? So I think this will be another like stretch similar to what you've seen. I think they're not going to take any of these teams lightly. You saw what Connecticut almost did to them earlier this season.
Oh yeah.
So there could be one in there, and like that, this game in Atlanta, I think both of these games on this road trip are tricky. But Atlanta is the one where, like, I really want to see how they handle that Griner, Bree Jones front court. And, Ryan Howard's playing exceptionally well. And I haven't even mentioned who I think their best player has been yet. And that's Alicia Gray, who should be an all-star starter in the minds of everyone right now. So that game's going to be tough. I could see another, like, if it's 9-1 throughout this, even if it's 10-0, or anywhere around that, I wouldn't be too surprised, because you get another stretch of games with teams that I don't think are going to be in the playoffs. That's like that road trip, and I'm interested to see how they look against a full strength Mercury team, because they're playing great basketball. They beat the brakes off Chicago yesterday. But yeah, I'm
just kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, and yes, they oh my God. But you get 4 games against the Sky in like just over a 2-week period who are not looking good. And yesterday was, I'm sure Lynx fans had a fun day of basketball yesterday, where you watch the team who whose draft pick you own lose in the afternoon, and watch your favorite team win at night. So right now you are the team with the best record in the WNBA, and you hold the first round draft pick of the team with the third worst record in the WNBA. And you've got a chance to make that record worse on 4 occasions in the next few weeks. I think, yeah, if we're sitting here next time I'm on your pod and they're 22-2, I won't be shocked in the slightest. Like I think they could there could be one of these games against a team like LA that they started to have in the first half last night that could turn into a loss. But yeah, it's a favorable schedule because it seems like the WNBA really didn't want to have a finals rematch in the first half of the season. So they'll get, 4 games against the Liberty pretty quick after this happens. But for now, yeah, I think it's a pretty, Western Conference heavy slate and a lot of teams that aren't really in the thick of it. So fun times.
Yeah. Well, I've had some people kind of respond to me on social media too, and just kind of say like, okay, yes, the Lynx are 12-1. They're playing, solid basketball, but also they haven't played, great competition. I shouldn't say that, that's not a rip on any of the teams they've played. Most of the teams that they have played that have been solid competition, they haven't been at full strength. That's been the argument of other people, which is fair, but you still have to win those games. You still have to take care of business in those games, and that's what Minnesota has done. And sometimes that plays in, plays in, a big role. But every team deals with that where they have their stars. Minnesota's dealing with it right now, and they could easily fold and get beat by another team on any given night. But you still got to win those games, and they still have to play the schedule they're dealt. And that
you still have to win those games, and at a certain point, once it's 13 games and you've won 12 of them,
right?
It's not just luck, despite there being some lucky breaks. But that I think one of the more encouraging wins of the season was that first game against Seattle at the end of May, where the Storm weren't missing on anyone.
No,
in that one,
right?
And even in that loss, they were right there. It's 10 points in the final score, but it was a lot closer than that. And the Storm just came away with it at the end. But also, I mean, Golden State doing what they're doing now after losing a lot of players to Eurobasket, the Lynx might be the only team that's played Golden State at full strength, as the Valkyries are out here surprising people. And in some of the second game against Phoenix, when they didn't have AT or Ka in the target center, but they absolutely blew the doors off Phoenix. And Satu had a good game, but it was just a Lynx, wire to wire blowout. So they've been doing what they need to do and gotten a little bit of luck here and there, but you can't just look at a 9-0 start or 12-1 start and to be like, oh, it's just the schedule. Like, they've played the entire Western Conference at this point. So
and it's not, like, to your point, it's not a small sample size anymore. It's I mean, you could even say 10 games in, it was a solid sample size, and now it just continues. And the thing that impresses me most, like specifically within this last 3 games, because I really do think that this maybe 10-game stretch is where Minnesota could separate themselves a little bit from New York. I don't think they're going to separate themselves a lot, but potentially they could separate themselves by maybe a few games. But like New York, for example, they've kind of, I don't want to say they've dropped off on the defensive side specifically, but over the last 3 games where they've gone 1-2, I just pulled up the defensive rating stats. New York has been the third worst team in the league in defense, and Minnesota's been by far the best. That to me is a big thing for Minnesota, specifically with doing it without Fee, the reigning defensive player of the year, for half of that span of 3 games. That's impressive. I mean, and that's something that will continue. I think that obviously Cheryl's talked about it. Very well that whole team has talked about it. Their defense leads the offense. They've always said that. They've said that numerous times this
Yeah.
year, that they feed off of their defense. And
And
that's
last
something.
night was a perfect example of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's something that's why I think that, maybe this is a stretch where Minnesota I'm not going to say they're going to be 5 games ahead of New York and New York's just going to go on this 5-game losing streak, but it could be maybe they gain a game or two before they
but
New York.
New York's got a tough West Coast road trip
They do.
right now, at Seattle, at Golden State, at Phoenix, and at Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about W scheduling a tough trip. Back to the 3 games as far away from home as possible, and then back to the East, like the part of the East Coast that's as far away from home as possible.
Right.
At least in your same time zone. Would love to have been in that meeting with the schedule makers. But we talked about it, I think, on this podcast. Somewhere we talked about that the loss of Kayla Thornton for this team was not a small one. She's playing like an all-star in Golden State right now.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, they ruled last night Jonquel Jones is going to miss the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Right.
So
That's
they're
big.
up against it. And it's better to lose Jonquel at this stage of the season rather than the playoffs. But that is a massive loss for them. And yeah, if you want right now, like the path to the 1 seed, which will be very helpful in getting back into 2 and winning the finals, this could be a stretch that we look back on as like that's kind of where the separation came, because you are more than likely going to deal with an injury of some kind again this year. And yeah, you can't take your foot off the gas at all. So I think this is one of the more challenging parts of New York's schedule. And then the next big challenge for them will be those 4 games between the Liberty and Lynx that start end of July. And we get that, nice little mini finals.
Yes.
And they also have, it's the Lynx play the Liberty 3 times in a row. They've got a game like at Vegas sort of sandwiched in there, another game at LA sandwiched in there, where I think the Lynx are just kind of chilling. So I'm sure we'll analyze that regular season stretch just like it's the finals, just because it'll be the dog days of August and it'll be fun, and that's what the league wants. But yes, this is a tough stretch for New York.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what takes place over the next not only a couple weeks, but obviously that mini series in the middle of August. That'll be a lot of fun to keep our eyes on, and that'll be a big, I think, decider, kind of measuring stick for both teams to see what takes place. The other thing too is, people talk about Minnesota and New York and how great they've been, or how they're the top 2 teams in the league. I mean, you look at the teams right behind them in Phoenix and Atlanta; they're right on their heels, and Seattle. You could even say they're right on the heels, and they could easily make a run too. But it's been fun to see, specifically those 4 teams, 5 teams kind of battle it out, and it'll be a fun couple weeks here that we have coming up. But we're in July already. It's crazy. We've already we have 1 week of June left, but it's crazy how fast the season flies.
It's July humidity outside right now.
Yes, absolutely.
But you're never not interesting here in the W. So yeah, definitely a lot of fascinating storylines unfolding. Thanks for having me, Mitchell. Yes. And we'll for sure be catching up soon.
Yes, absolutely, Terry. Everybody who's listening, go listen to Lynx Happy Hour. And also find Terry's work at the Next and give him a follow on social media. So Terry, I appreciate you joining, and we'll have to catch up soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mitchell.
Right. Thank you. Thank you once again to Terry for joining the podcast. As I mentioned, Terry does a great job covering the Lynx. He's a good dude, good friend. And I always appreciate chatting with him, and I appreciate also his willingness to do this in about I don't know, 30-minute notice. I texted him before we recorded that podcast, and he's always so gracious with being there whenever I need him. So I appreciate Terry, and go check out his work, as I mentioned, at the Lynx Happy Hour, his written work at the Next, who he does a great job for. And then also follow him on Blue Sky and on Twitter as well. But I also want to, another thank you goes out to our partners. You heard the ad in the middle of the recording with Terry, but our presenting sponsor, or kind of our headline sponsors, Pence Homes and Fantasy Sports Evo. Fantasy Sports Evo and Pence Homes have been phenomenal in not only supporting Hitting the Hardwood, this podcast, but Lynx Happy Hour, the whole Hitting the Hardwood network. When it comes to Pence Homes, Nate Pence, awesome. Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team, they've been awesome. They've been great supporters of the Lynx, great supporters of women's basketball. They've been great supporters of Hitting the Hardwoods. We really appreciate them. They're your top choice for buyers or sellers, and they're proud to support you in your home ownership goals. So please check them out at pencehomes.com. Reach out to Nate and the Pence Homes team. They're a great business, and we appreciate their support, and we hope that you can support them and by inquiring with them and bringing your business to them. So please go support them. Fantasy Sports Evo, as I mentioned, new way to play fantasy daily sports where you're not just betting on players, you're betting on teams. So you're betting teams wise rather than for players. So for example, if there's a slate in the WNBA on, let's say, a Tuesday, as this podcast is dropping, you wanna play some bets on the WNBA on Tuesday. You can pick any of the games or the entire slate over the night, and you pick which team in different categories. So let's say, for example, you enter into a league for $5, a $5 league. It could be even a dollar league, but $5 league. You enter that and you bet on which team you think is going to score the most points, which team is going to be better defensively, which team is going to make the most three-pointers. And you're not just betting on, or you're not, putting players specifically, you're putting teams as a whole. So it's a fun, kind of unique way to play fantasy sports. But you should go check them out, Fantasy Sports Evo. If you use the promo code LYNX when you're signing up, you receive a 100% deposit match plus $10 in playable credits. So go support Fantasy Sports Evo because they support Hitting the Hardwood, and we really appreciate them. I also want to give a shout out to our other two partners, Better Edge and Homage. We appreciate you guys since you have been proud supporters of Hitting the Hardwood since day one, and we really appreciate all that you do. If you or somebody you know want to partner with Hitting the Hardwood, we do have partnerships and sponsorships on various levels, including advertising on the podcast, in the newsletter, on social media, the website, and more. Please check out our partners page on our website. You can find those links, as I mentioned, on social media. You can find our sponsorship levels kind of breakdown in package. If there's something in there or if you have another idea that's not included in that sponsorship levels, send us an email, hittingthehardwood@gmail.com. We're happy to chat about it. And we just want to grow the game together. So let's do that and grow the coverage and continue this thing for months and years to come. But with that said, I really appreciate you joining and listening to the podcast this week. I hope you have enjoyed the WNBA season so far. I hope if you're local in Minnesota like I am, I hope you don't melt because it's hotter than the sun out there right now. But it's middle of summer. This is what we wanted, and I enjoy it. But I don't like melting. So, but stay inside, watch the Lynx, go to Target Center, enjoy some Lynx basketball in air-conditioned areas. Enjoy the rest of the WNBA season, and we have plenty of coverage coming up on social media at Canasupas for myself, at Winsider for myself, at RotoWire. You follow Terry Horstman. He's got coverage in all of the different areas that I had mentioned a little bit earlier. But give us a follow. Make sure that you are keeping tabs on our coverage, and we're here to provide the coverage and information for you guys as always. So thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the rest of June, and let's welcome in July, and let's keep this thing rolling. So appreciate you listening. We'll talk to you guys next time.